Good afternoon and welcome to Midday News on Rajya Sabha television, where we bring to you the top developing news stories from India and around the world at the lunchtime hour. My name is Aishwarya and these are the headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the last day of conference of DGPs and IGPs in Madhya Pradesh today. Cyber terrorism, cross-border terrorism, radicalization and left-wing extremism among key issues being discussed at the three-day meet. Two-day 18th All India Whips Conference kicks off in Udaipur. Efficient functioning of legislatures to be deliberated by the whips of Parliament and legislature and the Ministers of Parliamentary Affairs of various states. Government proposes digitization of Parliament and state legislatures. Fire breaks out in Mumbai Session Court's premises. No casualties are reported as the blaze doused. In another incident, 5 employees charred to death in a fire at a Bengaluru restaurant. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu addresses students and teachers at the 34th convocation of a Banastali Vidyapeeth in Rajasthan. Says education is the foundation for a strong, inclusive and gender-responsive India. And fears of a huge environmental disaster after tanker ablaze in East China Sea continues to leak oil 2 days after colliding with a cargo ship. 32 crew members on board still missing. A top story this afternoon, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the annual conference of GDPs and IGPs at the BSF Academy in Tekanpur district of Madhya Pradesh in a short while from now. Earlier on Sunday, Prime Minister Modi held discussions on specific security and policing issues. The meet is being attended by the officers of DGP and IGP ranks from all states and central police organizations, as well as the heads of paramilitary forces and intelligence agencies. Now, counter-radicalization, left-wing extremism, issues pertaining to the northeast, security situation in Jammu and Kashmir and policing in the future are some of the topics at the conference. Modi reached Gwalior yesterday morning, where Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan and Union Minister Narendra Singh Tomar were among those who welcomed him at the airport. The Prime Minister unveiled plaques to mark the inauguration of 5 new buildings at the BSF Academy. He also took part in discussions and presentations on various subjects relating to security. A presentation was made on the implementation status of decisions taken during the last 3 years, and the discussions are continuing today as well. Over 250 top police officers from all over the country are taking part in the conference that was inaugurated by Home Minister Rajnath Singh. On to the other top story of the day. Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Chemicals and Fertilizers Anandkumar inaugurated the 18th All India Whips Conference in Udaipur. Now, efficient functioning of legislatures will be the focus of the deliberations at the 2-day conference. The whips of Parliament and legislatures and Ministers of Parliamentary Affairs of various states will deliberate on the smooth conduct of procedures in Parliament and state legislatures. They will also consider the rollout of the e-Sansad and e-Vidhan initiatives in Parliament and state legislatures to digitize and make the functioning paperless. In the parliamentary form of government, the whips are functionally the managers of the parties within the legislatures. They are a vital link of the internal organization of parties. The efficient and smooth functioning of Parliament and state legislatures depends to a considerable extent upon the office of the whip. The conference is being organized by the Union Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and the Government of Rajasthan. Big story from down south, where the DMK today boycotted Governor Banwari Lal Purohit's address on the first day of Tamil Nadu Assembly session. The party is protesting what it calls the minority status of the AIA-DMK government, which doesn't have the required number of MLAs after the disqualification of its 18 MLAs. Now, raising slogans in the Assembly, DMK leader Stalin demanded a floor test and staged a walkout along with the DMK Congress and Indian Union Muslim League MLAs. Meanwhile, the ongoing and indefinite transport strike in Tamil Nadu entered its fifth day today as thousands of commuters were left stranded across the state. While the Tamil Nadu Transport Minister has said that agitating transport unions will have been misled really about the wage hike, the unions which launched the strike on 4th of January over wage revisions said that their agitation would continue till their demands were met. The opposition DMK has urged the government to hold talks with the trade unions and bring an end to the impasse. And External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has wrapped up her 5-day visit to Thailand, Indonesia and Singapore. Now, earlier in the day, on Sunday, Sushma Swaraj attended the ASEAN-India Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in Singapore and vowed to deepen ties with the ASEAN nations in order to strengthen bilateral relations. Sushma Swaraj also highlighted the potential and the promises in a defining partnership between India and Southeast Asia. She also added that ASEAN's leadership and centrality is vital for prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region.
Today, 16 Indian cities are connected to Singapore. A trilateral highway project from India to Thailand is making progress. We plan to expand this further to connect India with other ASEAN countries. ASEAN has unified 10 countries behind a common purpose, and it has become an anchor of broader regional integration and cooperation. For India, ASEAN leadership and centrality is essential to peace and prosperity for a rapidly changing Indo-Pacific region.
And Finance Minister Arun Jaitely says that the recently notified electoral bonds mechanism by the government is a substantial improvement in transparency over the present system. In a Facebook post on Sunday, Arun Jaitely pointed out that the conventional system of political funding relies on cash donations coming from unidentifiable sources where the quantum of money is never disclosed. While Jaitly pitched for transparent options like checks, online transactions or electoral bonds, he added that the government is open to suggestions to further cleanse political funding. And Congress Party President Rahul Gandhi arrived in Bahrain today. He will address a convention of NRIs and meet the Gulf country's Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad. Now, Rahul Gandhi, who will be a state guest of Bahrain, is also expected to meet King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. Rahul Gandhi will be the chief guest at a valedictory session of a function organized by the Global Organization of People of India Origin tomorrow, which will be attended by the delegates of 50 countries. And Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has said that literacy and education are the foundations for a strong, inclusive and gender-responsive India. Addressing the gathering of students and teachers at the 34th convocation of Banasthali Vidyapeeth in Tong district of Rajasthan, he called for a holistic, life-giving and character-building education system in the country. The Vice President on Sunday lauded the Panchmukhi Shiksha model of Banasthali Vidyapeeth, saying that the institution has adopted an innovative way to impart holistic education that enables every student to recognize his or her innate potential and helps in integrating the knowledge gained with its cultural and environmental background.
महिलाओं को उत्थान करने के लिए पहला शिक्षा, दूसरा उनका एकेडमिक पावर, तीसरा उनका सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट, स्किल डेवलपमेंट, चौथा उनको ये आरक्षण, ये सब बहुत जरूरी है, बहुत जरूरी आज हो गया। केवल आरक्षण से सभी समस्याओं का समाधान नहीं होगा, मुझे मालूम है। आरक्षण भी जरूरी है, महिलाओं को भी देश का विकास में, डेवलपमेंट में उनका योगदान भी होना चाहिए।
Vice President Venkaiah Naidu also presented awards and degrees to meritorious students. He opined that women's empowerment was a key factor in determining the country's growth and development, and that education was the best way to empower women.
If a man is educated, he is educated. If a woman is educated, the entire family will get educated. इसलिए हम लोग पूरा देश, केवल सरकार नहीं, सब लोग मिलकर उसी रास्ता में जाना चाहिए. हमारे बच्चों को, बालिकाओं को स्कूल में भेजना चाहिए.
On his arrival at the Banasthali Vidyapith, the Vice President received a warm reception from the students of the university. He also inspected the parade and went around the campus. He also visited the birthplace of Banasthali in the campus before proceeding to the 34th convocation of Banasthali Vidyapith. This is Rajkamal Rao's report for Rajya Sabha TV. And today is the last day of a withdrawal for the candidature for the Rajya Sabha biennial polls and by-polls. Notification for the 3 Rajya Sabha seats from Delhi and 1 seat from Sikkim were issued on 29th of December. Notification for the by-poll to fill up the Rajya Sabha seat from Uttar Pradesh, vacated by Manohar Parrikar, was also issued on the same day. And voting and the counting of votes will, if required, will be held on 16th of January. Delhi's 3 seats are currently being held by Congress leaders Karan Singh, Janardhan Dwivedi and Parvez Hashmi, whose terms are expiring on 27th of January. And Rajya Sabha Secretariat today celebrated the New Year in Parliament premises. The function was attended by Rajya Sabha Secretary General Desh Deepak Verma, who extended his warm greetings to the employees of Rajya Sabha and Rajya Sabha television as well.
इस अवसर पे मैं सारे राज्यसभा परिवार को, राज्यसभा टीवी के परिवार को और सभी लोग जो इस बड़ी महान संस्था से जुड़े हुए हैं, उन सबको नव वर्ष की बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और ये उम्मीद करता हूं कि इस वर्ष पूरा परिवार, सारे सदस्य खूब फलेंगे, फूलेंगे और अपने जीवन में आगे बढ़ेंगे.
And in midday news, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back with more news. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome. I'm Amit Anshara and you're watching Law of the Land on Rajya Sabha TV.
DICC as on date provides a deposit guarantee of 1 lakh rupees. And at this moment the people are happy.
If a company fails, then the company is liquidated.
Option for resolution, it gives about 4 or 5 mechanisms like mergers and acquisition, wrapping up and so on.
Watch Law of the Land on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back after the break. News from Bengaluru, where at least 5 employees of a bar-cum restaurant were killed in a fire incident today. The incident took place at Kumbara Sangha building in city's Kalasipalya area. 2 fire tenders and 1 fire rescue vehicle were pressed into action to douse the fire. The cause of the fire is not yet known. Police is investigating the case. Meanwhile, a fire also broke out on the 3rd floor of the Sessions Court building in Mumbai. No casualty or injury has been reported so far. This is the 5th fire incident in the city of Mumbai in the last 20 days.
Today morning around 2:33 o'clock in Kailash Bar in City Market area, there was a fire and 5 people have died. Now the fire safety, fire department, police department and our BBMP are investigating the matter.
And a Sessions Court in Gurugram has rejected the bail plea of 16-year-old student who is accused of killing 7-year-old Pradhaman Thakur at the Ryan International School. The accused is presently in custody. The court had earlier reserved the order after hearing the arguments of the counsel for the accused, the CBI and the complainant. The defence counsel had claimed that the charge sheet in the matter was not filed within 1 month as prescribed in the Juvenile Justice Act, and that he was not given required documents. However, opposing the contention, the CBI said that the mandatory period for filing a charge sheet is 90 days under CRP provisions, as the accused has been declared as an adult by the Juvenile Justice Board. The Juvenile Justice Board had on 20th of December held that the teenager would be tried as an adult in the case and had directed that he be pronounced before the Gurugram Sessions Court. The Delhi police filed an FIR against a journalist over a news report on Aadhaar data breach. The FIR was lodged on the complaint of a senior UIDAI official under sections 36 and 37 of the Aadhaar Act, apart from IC sections on cheating and forgery and section 66 of the IT Act. Now, the FIR mentions the names of the journalist and the people that the reporter had reached out to purchase the Aadhaar data, but they have not been shown as accused. Meanwhile, the Editors Guild of India has criticized the UIDAI for naming the journalist in the FIR and asked the government to get the complaint withdrawn. News from the northeast of the country, and BJP President Amit Shah says that a regime change is inevitable in the state of Tripura. Addressing a public rally in the northeastern state, Shah lashed out at the incumbent left government, saying that it has failed on many fronts in the 25 years of rule, including fighting crimes against women and unemployment. Shah added that the BJP-ruled states are much ahead of the states ruled by the left and the Congress party. Amit Shah is on a two-day visit to Tripura, where the assembly polls are due later this year.
25 साल के बाद त्रिपुरा के गांवों में, घरों में 24 घंटा बिजली आती है क्या? हर गांव रोड से जुड़ चुका है। अस्पतालों की व्यवस्था ठीक है। युवा को रोजगारी मिलती है। महिला सुरक्षित है। किसानों के अपने ही उपज के दाम मिलते हैं क्या? मित्रों, त्रिपुरा की कानून और व्यवस्था की स्थिति ठीक है क्या? सब नहीं, 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 नहीं। तो 25 साल तक ये माणिक सरकार की सरकार ने किया क्या है?
And Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath addressed a public rally in Bengaluru on Sunday, and hitting out at the ruling Congress government in Karnataka, Adityanath said that the Siddaramaiah government has pushed the state 5 years back due to corruption, divisive politics and anti-development policies. He hit out at the Chief Minister for deteriorating law and order situation in the state as well, claiming that in 5 years, 22 people affiliated to the RSS have been killed.
चुनाव आते हैं, आपकी एकता को देखती है, तो कांग्रेस आपको जाति के नाम पर बांटना चाहती है। कांग्रेस आपको तमाम अन्य वादों में बांटना चाहती है। कांग्रेस इस देश के लिए आज एक बोझा बन चुकी है, एक समस्या बन चुकी है।
Let's get you all the weather updates. And cold wave conditions continue to prevail in northern and eastern parts of the country. An intense cold has claimed at least 28 lives in Bihar. Dense fog across the northern plains hindered the movement of vehicles and train services. Around 50 trains were late, 16 were rescheduled and 39 were cancelled on Sunday. In Jammu and Kashmir, the cold wave was sweeping the valley has tightened its grip on the Kashmir division, including Ladakh region, that experienced the coldest night of the season in the state. Srinagar recorded a minimum temperature of -6 degrees Celsius, and Kargil in Ladakh region was the coldest recorded place in the state, as the mercury settled at a low of -18.8 degrees Celsius. Intense cold wave conditions also continued in Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan. However, Delhi savored a sun-washed afternoon yesterday, which pushed the mercury to 20.7 degrees Celsius. In Haryana, the state government has announced that all schools will remain shut for winter holidays till 14th of January. In Punjab, the severe cold sweeping the state has further intensified. In eastern states, many areas are reeling under cold conditions. In Bihar, 28 people are reported to have been killed due to intense cold. Gaya recorded the state's lowest minimum temperature at 2.8 degrees Celsius. And in Jharkhand, Jamshedpur experienced the coldest day of the season. In Odisha also, the mercury dropped by 2 to 3 degrees Celsius in coastal areas due to cold wind from northeast direction, and the Met Office has forecast similar conditions over the next few days. And the Election Commission of India, in collaboration with the government's publication division, has released a coffee table book which is chronicling the election body's journey since India's independence. Our correspondent Anandkumar caught up with Senior Deputy Election Commissioner Umesh Sinha at the ongoing book fair in New Delhi to know more about the book.
ये कहा जाता है कि प्रकाशन विभाग की पुस्तकों के बगैर भारत को नहीं समझा जा सकता। आपने किस तरह महसूस किया?
आप किसी भी विषय, इम्पोर्टेंट विषय पे जिसके बारे में कोई जानकारी चाहते हैं तो पब्लिकेशन डिवीज़न की जो पुस्तकें हैं वो सब तरह के आपके ज्ञान की पिपासा को शांत करती है। मैं विशेष रूप से पब्लिकेशन डिवीज़न को अन्य कार्यों के साथ इस बात के लिए बधाई देना चाहता हूँ कि उन्होंने पिछली वर्ष जो हमारे एक पुस्तक जो हमारी पब्लिश की, आप यहाँ पे देख रहे हैं कि ये अनफोल्डिंग इंडियन इलेक्शंस जर्नी थ्रू द लिविंग डेमोक्रेसी, तो पिछला हमारा जो 60 साल से ज़्यादा का इलेक्शन का पूरा इतिहास है उसके ऊपर एक कॉफ़ी टेबल बुक है जो अपने चित्रों के माध्यम से, सूचनाओं के माध्यम से पूरी बात को बताता है। ये जो पूरा इलेक्टोरल प्रोसेस है उसमें जो हमारे अनसंग हीरोज हैं, जिन हज़ारों लाखों लोग जो इसके पीछे काम कर रहे हैं, चाहे वो हमारे इलेक्ट्रल मशीनरी के नहीं, हमारे वो स्टेक होल्डर्स भी हैं, चाहे वो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ के लोग हों या सिविल सोसाइटी के लोग हों, जो हमारे एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, ये सब मिल के इस देश के इस खूबसूरत इलेक्शन को अंजाम देते हैं। तो उनके पीछे एक ह्यूमन स्टोरीज जो है उनका एक 100 कहानियों का एक सीरीज़ हमने बिलीफ इन द बैलेट के नाम से प्रकाशित किया। पब्लिकेशन डिवीज़न ने इसको प्रकाशित किया। इसका हिंदी में भी अब मत में विश्वास करके किताब आ रही है। यहाँ जो बुक्स बनाई गई उसकी क्वालिटी तो अच्छी है ही, जो उनके कीमतें रखी गई वो बहुत ही अफोर्डेबल और रिजनेबल है, जो कोई भी आम आदमी खरीद सकता। पिछले वर्षों में स्पेशली जो राष्ट्रपति भवन के सहयोग से माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट के उनके गाइडेंस में जो किताबें बनी हैं और अन्य भी नई किताबें बनाई हैं विशेष रूप से ज्ञानवर्धक है। मुझे लगता है कि पब्लिकेशन डिवीज़न का कंट्रीब्यूशन तो और बढ़ना ही चाहिए, लेकिन इसका और भी फैलाव होना चाहिए ताकि ये और इसके ग्रास रूट तक पहुंचने का के लिए जो भी इसको हम लोग इनकरेज कर सकते हैं उसको करना चाहिए।
ये जो संचार और सूचना क्रांति आई उसने किताबों को समेट दिया है कि भारत के संदर्भ में आपको क्या लगता है किताबों का महत्व किस तरह बना रहेगा आपके हिसाब से?
डिजिटल मीडियम का कंट्रीब्यूशन नॉलेज के पास से ठीक है, कन्वीनियंस के लिए बहुत अच्छा है। आप कभी भी कहीं पढ़ सकते हैं, सहज रख सकते हैं, बहुत सारा ज्ञान बहुत सारे छोटे से आपके मोबाइल और कंप्यूटर में हो सकता है, लेकिन जो फीलिंग आपको एक बुक में आती है वो बुक किसी भी चीज़ में नहीं आती है। तो मुझे लगता है कि ये पुस्तकों का प्रोडक्शन तो होना जारी रहना भी चाहिए, रहेगा भी, और ये प्रिंट मीडियम हमेशा सशक्त रहेगा।
And powerlifting world champion Saksham Yadav and 4 others died of injuries after a road accident near Delhi. The 4 other powerlifting players who were killed included Tikam Chand, Saurabh, Yogesh and Harish Roy. Yadav sustained head injuries and severe internal bleeding. According to a preliminary investigation into the accident, the speed of the car was very high. Some bottles have also been found in the car, indicating the possibility of a drunk driving. Further investigation is underway. Let's get you all the international news. And 32 people are missing after an Iranian oil tanker, Sanchi, collided with a cargo ship off China's east coast near Shanghai. The collision took place on Saturday night. The oil tanker that was carrying 136,000 tons of oil caught fire after the crash and has been burning for nearly 24 hours now. While 21 people on board the cargo ship were rescued, 32 others are still missing. 30 of them are Iranians, while the remaining 2 are Bangladeshis. 8 Chinese ships have been sent to carry out a search and rescue operation. South Korea also sent a Coast Guard ship and a helicopter to aid the relief effort. However, poor weather and plumes of smoke rising from the tanker are making rescue attempts difficult. This is the first major accident involving an Iranian oil tanker since international sanctions limiting the country's oil exports were lifted in January 2016. Experts say that potentially the entire oil could end up in the ocean, and that would put this in the top 10 spills of all time. News from Syria, where at least 23 people are reportedly dead and more others are injured after a large explosion in the rebel-held city of Idlib in the northwestern part of the country. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that the blast struck the headquarters of a minor rebel faction, and 7 of the dead are believed to be civilians. It is unclear what caused the blast in the city's Thalatin district. Reports say that rescue teams were working to recover the dead and wounded from the damaged buildings and nearby houses. Several people remain unaccounted for. Now, Idlib province on the border with Turkey is one of the major strongholds of the forces opposing President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian army and its allies have vowed to take back Idlib and the neighboring province. Big story from the United States, where flooding from a broken water pipe forced the temporary suspension of some flights at New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport on Sunday. The airport was already jammed with frustrated travelers whose flights were delayed or cancelled by the bitter cold that has gripped the East Coast for days. The water poured from the ceiling onto a check-in counter and covered large areas of the floor of the airport. The disruption occurred while the U.S. Northeast continued to endure bone-chilling weather with a New York temperature at -8 degrees Celsius. International flights to Terminal 4 were temporarily suspended, and passengers who had already arrived there were diverted to other terminals. Authorities said that the water pipe break was likely weather-related. On to all the sporting action, and South Africa will resume their second innings at the overnight score of 65-2 against India on the 4th day today at Cape Town. South Africa has a lead of 142 runs over India with 8 wickets in hand. On Sunday, the match was called off due to rain. The hosts made 286 runs in the first innings, and in reply, India were bowled out for 209 runs. This is the first test of the 3-match test series. And finally, Indian origin actor Aziz Ansari won the Golden Globe for the Best Actor in a Television Series. Aziz emerged a winner in the Best Performance by an Actor in a Television Series in a musical or comedy category for his role in The Master of None. Ansari beat out Anthony Anderson in Blackish, Kevin Bacon in I Love Dick, William H. Macy in Shameless, and Eric McCormack in the recently returned Will and Grace. Ansari was previously nominated for the same award in 2016. The Master of None series, which streams on Netflix, is a comedy about an actor's personal and work life in New York. Earlier in 2017, Ansari also swept up 2 Emmys for his work on the show. And that's all in this edition of Midday News. Thanks for your time.